What's up, everyone? Welcome back to Player One versus the World for more Life is Strange content. A bit more different format I usually do. And if you are new here, do please drop us a subscribe, put on the notification, share, and like this video as well. It helps with the channel. We've got a bit of a boost with our channel recently, but that's not the main point as well. So we have to kind of talk about our guest. Our guest is none other than Crispy Hanako, who is a speedrunner. A bit different from what you're probably expecting, but welcome to the show. How are you doing?
Pretty good. I'm glad to be here.
I'm glad to have you here. So, like, obviously, speedrunning with Life is Strange kind of blew my mind a bit, because I was like, I've seen speedrunning for everything, but like Life is Strange was one of those games that I didn't expect to happen. But before I get into that, I kind of want to know more about you. Like, who are you? How did you get into speedrunning? Give us the insight into yourself.
All right. Well, yeah, I'm Crispy Hanako. I've been speedrunning since probably somewhere around 2016, 2017. One of my friends tried to get me to speedrun Bastion at one point, which that one, not really the one for me. And I think I picked up Catherine as my first game, and that's probably one of my main ones. Mm-hmm. And then it was probably in Steam's winter sale of probably 2017, 2018, something like that, where that exact same friend actually had played through Life is Strange. And they said, oh, there's a demo out for it, might as well try it. And I don't think I've reached for my debit card any quicker after playing that demo. It ended like right as you hit the fire alarm in the bathroom in episode 1. So it was pretty quick.
Yeah, very enticing moment that, and I completely relate to you about getting your debit card and buying it after that, because it does leave you hooked. And it's like what I kind of like, one of my friends years ago recommended me to like watch games done quick, and then from there I kind of started getting interested in speedrunning. And usually I see the big hitters like Metal Gear Solid, Resident Evil, the kind of ones that you do within an hour, and they've kind of featured. But then, like, more recently, in the last couple of months, I've seen that people speedrun Final Fantasy and speedrun, like, much longer games, which are, like, 6 or 7 hours. And obviously, I feel like Life is Strange falls into that bracket if you're doing the full game in its entirety. So I kind of wanted to say, when you got this Life is Strange, you bought the game with your debit card. And then what point did you think, I want to speed run this game? Because it's very different compared to even, like, Final Fantasy, for example. Like, you have to sit there and watch all the cutscenes. You have to, go through the story, essentially.
Yeah, it's essentially an auto-scroller, and nobody in speedrunning wants to sit through an auto-scroller, especially for 5.5 hours, as in the case of Life is Strange 1. Life is Strange 2, 8 hours, and full series like I did for last June, it was 19 hours, not including True Colors, because it wasn't out yet. But it was just the story, really, because I really sort of related to it. It's just like taking the lesser of two evil options in the end of it, and it's just, the story just hooked me. And the more you speedrun it, the more stupid jokes you can make about it, so it just makes you get through it a little bit better.
I can imagine. So there's a lot of replayability value for it. I've definitely found that, obviously, having run a YouTube channel mainly around the game series now, so I can relate to you on that front. But, I wanted to ask you, like you said, 5 hours, you can play Life is Strange 1, 8 hours it can go on for. These are marathon sessions. I've only recently started seeing a bit more of the marathon sessions that streamers will go into, or speedrunners will go into, to kind of get these. How do you prepare to sit there for like 5 to 8 hours for like a speedrun? Like, what do you do to make sure you prepare? Because obviously, if Amazon guy comes, you're going to have to come in, like, go and get the delivery or something, but you're mentally prepared to get there. Like, what kind of preparation do you put into a speedrun session that long?
For me, it's more just trying to find the time and set it aside, because if I can just tell people, look, I'm going to be busy from this point onwards for the next 5-6 hours, I can basically block out that entire time. Mm-hmm. As for like food or anything, or drinks or bathroom breaks, obviously between the episodes, because you can't skip those, and the rules don't allow you to quit out of the game, start the file over again, because we want it in one continuous segment, as most speedruns are. So it has its own built-in breaks, so you just kind of learn where those are.
I've noticed that more recently with some of the other games I've seen, and also with Life is Strange, there does seem to be quite nice chunky blocks where you can kind of just go and get your stuff and whatever you need to do with that. So I wanted to ask you as well, have you ever held any world records in any of the Life is Strange categories?
So might have held a record in a couple of the categories, but it probably wasn't for very long. I know I'm top 3 or 4 in at least any percent and 100%. As for any of the episodes, nah, I haven't put the time in.
Yeah, so I found you through speedrun.com, and I was looking at all the different people who have ran Life is Strange, and you were one of them. So that's where I initially found you, and I kind of wanted to know about the world records, because is there any desire to kind of go back and try and break one of those world records, or kind of go for a category that you haven't done yet?
For me, I mean, or for just anybody,
Just for yourself.
just for me, the one that's probably easiest to go for is like episode 1, because you don't have any setup for that. It's the very beginning of the game. You have no previous choices to go for. It's just 46 minutes or so. Just go for it. And usually you'll know pretty early on if you'll not get it.
Okay.
It's mostly just optimizing the movements, and because all the choices for episode 1 have already been flattened out. We know this one's fastest, we know this one's fastest, and we don't have to worry about that. It's just movement. So if you're feeling off on movement, you're just like, okay, reset.
See, that's interesting, and it's a nice segue into what I was going to ask you about. Like, how does one enter the speedrunning scene for like Life is Strange? Like, are there guides? Are there kind of like tutorials? How do you kind of how's this optimization been mapped out across all these episodes?
I know for 100% and any percent, because those full game categories, we've got those mapped out pretty well. As for episodes 2 through 5, I haven't personally ran those enough to say if there is a definitive guide for those. I'm sure there is, but episode 1, that's very beginning of the game. We have so many people go through that. It's really easy to go through. We do have guides and resources, especially on what you have to pick, because that's the entire point of a guide. And if you're wanting to get into stuff in like episode 3, 4, and 5, because we do have skips and stuff, where there is an entire guide dedicated to how the skips work, where they're applicable, where we know they're applicable, because we're still trying to find stuff. And I think we still have the bounty out for if anybody wants to try to get the first sub 5 hour in Life is Strange 1.
How much is this bounty? Because I only realized a bit more about bounties, because I know that Metal Gear Speedrunners community has one, and they've got like, I think it's like $1,000 reward if you can find a PAL skip sequence in the first Metal Gear, and it's like that is an unholy amount of money to like do. Like, how much is like a bounty for this skip?
It's only started recently. I think it's about up to $150, which for something like Metal Gear, it pales in comparison to that. Yeah. But for something where you can shave off minutes for us to get under 5 hours to possibly make this marathon safe or marathon worthy for like GDQ or anything, because that's not going to get into GDQ. We're going to have something big in order for us to get into GDQ. We don't have anything in episode 1 or 2. Our first skip is like 3 hours in. And even then, it only saves like 7 minutes as compared to 5 hours.
Yeah, see, that's one of the fascinations I found with speedrunning. Like, every second counts. Like, and you're still actively trying to squeeze like the moments out as well, like finding new skips. So, and if you are listening as well, there's an opportunity to earn a little bit of hefty money there if you can find a skip. And do you like this community as well? Because obviously, like I said, the Metal Gear one's quite big, and it seems bigger. It's more, a bit more prolific as well as the series. Like, this community, is it on Discord where people talk?
Yeah, it's on Discord. I believe it should be linked on all the pages. If it's not, I can add it in later. Okay. But it's probably... we've probably got maybe 24 active-ish people. And then the community itself, we kind of absorbed the rest of the Don't Nod games because those were even smaller than what we are. Mm-hmm. The only one we haven't really heard back from is Vampire, I believe. Yeah. Because I think they have their own thing, and they're even more dead than we are, or other Don't Nod games when it comes to speedrunning. But we just kind of absorbed a little bit. It's just like, oh, we'll be the unofficial hub for all of Don't Nod speedrunning.
It's a great way, and I think, like, for me personally, I still think publishers haven't tapped into the speedrunning community as well as they have. I think there's like loads of opportunities there to kind of get engagement with fans, and what you do is quite remarkable for like what you're actually doing with speedrunning. And you mentioned we have all these Life is Strange titles. Which is the easiest, do you think, to run in its entirety? Like, we're talking about full title if you're sitting down. Which one's easiest for you?
Captain Strange.
Sure.
Captain Spirit. Sorry. I saw Doctor Strange the other week. It's still in my brain. Is
it because it's purely short? That's why.
Yes, it's like 30 minutes. Although 20 of it is just standing around.
Oh.
So it is the easiest.
See, that's like what I find fascinating, because it's like with Life is Strange, I've seen all the other speedruns by other games, and it's like with Telltale games, I was only thinking a couple of days ago, I was like, maybe I should do like a Life is Strange speedrun to try and get myself in some kind of big name books. And then I went on speedrun.com, I was like, people actually run this. And like, because you're standing still for a lot of it, so 20 minutes of standing still in Captain Spirit, that makes a lot of sense. Is there any skips in that you found, or is it you have to just play it as if in its entirety?
I think the only quote-unquote skips that we have are when you've played the dialogue options before, where you can skip it with at the very end. So other than that, I don't think there's really any. We do have a shorter category for it, where it's all quests, which is just to color in or do all the things on Chris's little notebook. And that's like 8.5 minutes.
So there's actually a section of just part of that game that has its own speedrunning category. Really?
Yeah.
Oh, I never thought that. I didn't realize. I knew that, like, obviously the games are like split up into it, but I never knew you could just do it for a certain part of a game.
Yeah, because so we have for Captain Spirit, it's any percent, which is finish it, and the way that don't not intended. All quests, which is just do everything that Chris wants to do for the day, and then 100%, which is do everything Chris wants to do for the day and finish it as intended.
Yeah. Oh, wow. I didn't realize you could do it for that small section. I knew that I've kind of only become familiar with any percent and 100% like kind of categories. So that one's kind of a bit of a surprise to me. And we've kind of mentioned it before, like, you know, glitches, kind of skips are really important for speedrunning. What are kind of like the main ones that you found in the community together? And like, because obviously I imagine my audience has already played Life is Strange in its entirety. They've played all of them. So like, what are kind of like some of the big key skips that you guys have found and like that have really changed and like cut out huge amounts of time?
Well, okay. One, I'll start off with one that's not really a skip. Obviously, letting Kate jump off the roof in episode 2, that's pretty big. You don't want to go talk to her in the hospital. That's like 20-30 minutes just in there. So not a skip, but saves time. Mm-hmm. So then the first skip that we actually get to do would probably be what we... I am actually going to get this in chronological order because I want to make sure that this is the first one. Going to our little guide page. Shouldn't have closed this window. Guys, skips and you. So the first one is episode 2. It's skip, but where you're collecting the bottles in the junkyard with Chloe right before she shoots them.
Yep.
So if you collect the 5th bottle and then warp back to your pause menu, resume checkpoint, it actually loads you right in front of Chloe with all 5 bottles. So that saves like 5 seconds because the game saves your inventory, but then you reload the checkpoint, and then it for whatever reason, the checkpoint warps you right back to Chloe.
Ooh.
There's another one in episode 2 after you get to the school, which is a lot harder to pull off, where if you look at David in the hallway, if you get close to him, look at him, and then just ever so slightly edge towards him, or edge towards past him, you can skip the trigger where he's forced to talk to you. And you can do the same thing with Jefferson when she's talking, or when he's talking to Kate. And obviously you have to wait for him to stop talking to Kate. But you can skip him too. He's a lot harder. I'm not as consistent at it, but it is possible. And then probably the biggest one after that would be breakfastist, that we call it, where you skip making breakfast with Joyce in the downstairs scene in episode 3, where you go outside where the little plaque is leaning against the fence. And this one's only for PC because you have to have an uncapped frame rate. Right. So that's not a wall. It's a very steep slope. And if you have uncapped frame rate, you can shimmy up the wall over the fence into the neighbor's backyard, go to the front of the house, fall through the floor, go into the garage, and then skip that entire scene, having to make breakfast, have Chloe come down and greet you, and have to sneak out there yourself. The thing is, if you do the laptop like you would normally for that scene, and then come back in, Chloe's not there. The game thinks she is, but her model's not there for you to interact with her. So if you stand there long enough, you can actually see an invisible fork floating. So in order to get the game to recognize that where you're actually at now in the story, you reload the checkpoint as you walk through the door, and everything's fine.
That's so cool.
Which that one, you can layer it on top of itself too, and that is so wacky. Because you'll get it to the point where Chloe's sitting at the table, but you can also still have the ingredients from trying to help Joyce. Go back to Joyce after coming back through the door, start making breakfast, sit on top of Chloe, and then it plays, if you talk to Chloe while Joyce is doing all her stuff, it triggers the scene at the end of that area and Joyce's reminiscence of going through the photos at the same time. So everybody's teleporting around everywhere.
That's like, see, that's one of my favorite things about like why I wanted to bring you on, because like I know so much about the game series, and so do a lot of people. But like when you find this kind of part of the community where it's speedrunning, and you are essentially breaking the game in different places, kind of save those seconds and minutes, you find those incredible scenes like that. And in itself, like, you know, I know that some of the speedrunners kind of always say like we like encouraging new people to come in because they might have noticed something we didn't. Obviously these skips are even sometimes by past you know, coincidence that you might find them, or just kind of like sheer luck, or you might have actually done something to trigger it. But like, you know, have you ever found any of these significant skips that have contributed to it, or any couple of seconds that you helped save for the community?
Me, myself, no. I was in commentary for one that we had, but other than that, I haven't personally found anything.
See, there's the other element I like with speedrunning, which is the commentary. It's like you have those moments where speedrunners will just like do their entire thing, and then you have other people who are part of the community doing commentary over it. What's it like to kind of go on to do commentary? Because you know, obviously you're talking about another fellow speedrunner. You don't want to be harsh, but you look at what they're doing. You're like, ooh, you could have saved a couple of seconds there. What's it like having that opportunity to kind of just commentate over something that's quite, you know, it's almost like sports-esque what you're doing in terms of like, if you're watching a football game, a soccer game, you're seeing commentary non-stop, but what's it like doing it over a speedrun or someone else's speedrun?
I know I've done it for Catherine as well. For that one, I can kind of be like, oh, I can kind of post-mortem be like, oh, maybe you could have done this a little bit faster, or you could do this because they're not doing it, because they're trying to go for a little bit of a safer strat for that. But for Life is Strange, it's more of trying to make fun of the game, because you're sitting there for 5 hours. You need to have something to talk about. So we'll just poke fun of something that somebody said, or like, for example, whenever you pull up to the diner in episode 2, it's the guy that has the lottery ticket is just like, man, I hope he wins. I want some of that. I'll steal his ticket. I don't care. The woman next to him might not, but I will.
No, so that's and has anyone ever commentaried over your runs?
For Life is Strange, no. I haven't submitted it, and if I have submitted it, it never got into anywhere. I don't think we've really gotten in anywhere. Maybe for like a partial episode, but I don't think the full run has ever gotten in.
Yeah, so I was actually going to bring that up, but we'll bring it up now instead, because obviously, like, you know, I think the big aim for a lot of streamers is to kind of get to like games done quick as well. There's such big showcases and all the other events as well. You know, I checked Life is Strange hasn't been that. It's difficult, but like on their YouTube channel, they've started to open up more kind of sections where they have like longer games in there. Like I said, Final Fantasies, for example, it's like a 8-hour, 7-hour run if you're doing it in that. Has there ever been an opportunity to submit Life is Strange to GDQ? Has anyone ever tried it, to your knowledge?
I know I have. I'm not sure if anybody else has. But the thing is, with those really long runs, GDQ specifically sets out a block for one really long run, like Final Fantasy 13 or something that's like 6-7 hours or whatever. But it needs to be interesting enough, and it kind of needs to have enough of a cult following for that. And Life is Strange really doesn't check any of those boxes. Like, sure, we know people like the game, but there's nothing really interesting about it, skip-wise, speedrun-wise, until about hours.
Yeah, I thought that would probably be the case, because like, as I think it makes more sense where you say, like, you see the lottery ticket guy, and you have to make those kind of like quippy jokes and kind of add a little bit of extra entertainment, because otherwise you are going to see viewers just sitting there watching a game where you're essentially skipping through and running through as much as possible. So, but
Right.
are you optimistic that it could ever get to like a GDQ? Because obviously you're still breaking the game, you're still finding new glitches and hacks and everything else that's kind of like that are actually eligible for a run. But are you optimistic that we could potentially see it down the line? We are seeing different Life is Strangers, and there could be maybe an opportunity for it to open up. Even like Captain Spirit, for example, that's a short one as well.
Right. We might be able to do like Captain Spirit. For Life is Strange, I think just any of the mainline titles, they're just a little too long, too auto-scrolly. It's just not there. I did kind of throw in a pitch where like, if you go into collectible mode, you can skip the dialogue throughout the whole thing. Mm-hmm. I'm wondering if we could get somebody to like mod the game to do that in a normal playthrough, so we can have that as a different category, so it's separate from everything else, but make it just have like a marathon kind of mod for it, so we just skip all the boring stuff and dialogue option this, skip, dialogue option skip, da-da-da. And then that way we get to the more interesting skips in episodes 2, 3, and 4 a little bit quicker.
Yeah, that would make more sense. I've seen it more feasible in some of the other games that it's kind of like a community census where they've enabled like a certain kind of like skip or kind of a hack or like a turbo. I think like MGS2 now has turbo available if you're speedrunning it, so they can skip all the dialogue and it makes it easier for them. They don't have to mash, and it's kind of being mutually agreed. So I think with that idea, I think potentially, and I'm hopeful. Obviously, I'd love to see it like a GDQ. That'd be so cool. And I think probably, like you said, like its following isn't as strong as the Final Fantasies, the Resident Evils, the Metal Gears. Those they're the kind of culprits I always see pop up at GDQs. So kind of just moving that way from a bit, I've kind of like, as I said, like I've been digging more into speedrunning, and one of the things I've seen more recently, and especially even at GDQ, is head-to-head speedrunning. So like you've had two commentators or two speedrunners running like Resident Evil 7 or 8, or you had I think the Metal Gear community did where it did Metal Gear Solid 1 and MGS Twin Snakes. Have you ever done Life is Strange side by side with someone in a head-to-head battle?
No, I don't think it's that kind of game to really do that with. I mean, kind of going back to like the GDQ thing, I can kind of see us doing that. If it does get into a GDQ, it might be in kind of like a relay kind of thing where we have one different person run each episode sequentially, or possibly like one episode like can be on like Monday, next episode be on a Tuesday or something like that. So it's smaller runs, so that it has a higher chance of happening, but then it still has a chance to not. But then GDQ also has like the hotfix shows where just in a stream, just like in a random week or something in a year, they're just like, we have this special theme of really long games that nobody really runs. That would be perfect for it.
Yeah, I've seen that with a couple. I think Yu-Gi-Oh! Forbidden Memories was one that popped up for me, which I was like, oh wow, that's like a blast from the past. And it was like such a long run. I was like, all right, okay, now I understand why they've done like a special stream for this one. So kind of going to the we talked about like there's a community there for it, and there's still active players in there. And, you have a Discord, and I know that a lot of these speedrunning communities are so really welcoming for new people to come in. But in itself, what I find interesting is the camaraderie, where it's like everyone's really nice to each other. They like, supporting each other. They go on each other's runs and say like, well done for breaking a world record. But then all of you are trying to fight for number one. Everyone wants to be number one, don't they? What's it like having the opportunity, like when you first started doing Life is Strange and then entering the community like this one? What's it been like to kind of be in there and see this kind of, like I said, like people supporting each other, people competing against each other, giving all kinds of tips? What's that experience been like for you?
It's been really great. It's, you obviously find people that have your same interests and everything, just like any other kind of club or whatever. And we don't really talk down on anybody whenever they get something wrong in a run, because it's just like, because they already know they could have saved it to that time. So it's just like, I know I messed up in episode 3, so I just do that better next time. Or someone just comes in, snipes it, and be like, I did it better than you. But it's more just like, good job, buddy. Just keep going at it, and that kind of just ignites the fire under everybody else.
Oh, that's, perfect way to do it as well, and perfect way to get people continuing to go for it. And you can always improve as well, So I'll give you a break from the speedrunning part, but I kind of want to go with which is your favorite Life is Strange game to date? Not for speedrunning, but just in general. Which one's your favorite so far?
I would probably still have to say Life is Strange 1. I resonate with that one so hard compared to all the others.
Absolute classic. Who's your favorite character?
Max. I identify with Max on a spiritual level.
Yeah.
People have spirit animals. Max is my spirit character. Throughout the entirety of like school, I'm just like, I am Max this entire time. What?
I feel like that myself. I saw that very much with Max. I love Max as well. It's a great shout. And I'm going to pull you back into speedrunning parks. I'm going to put it in the spot here and say, what's the most embarrassing mistake you've ever made during a speedrun? Whether it's Life is Strange or not.
I don't really know. You make these just mistakes and you just try to get them past you. I don't really like to linger on them that much.
Mm-hmm.
If I had to pick one, I would. I really don't know. I don't think I could pick one.
Oh, well, fair enough. And I'm going to take you into that a bit more, where it's like, you know, with speedrunning, you start and you can kind of like reset quite a few times early on, because it's like, if it's not the optimizations right, let's just get rid of it. Let's start again. Say if you're running the 5-hour run of like Life is Strange 1, at what point would you consider is like almost like a point of no return? Like, whether you're going to set a record or not, where do you kind of like consider it as like, I need to just keep going at this point, even if I've made a couple of mistakes?
Me personally, if I'm doing the full run, I just bite the bullet and go the whole way. I know people draw the line in different ways, but most of the time when I have a set time to do the full run, I just do it. I don't care about what mistakes I make at that point. And I speedrun it so infrequently. It's just like, oh, did I make a mistake last time? Or why am I saving time here? It's a surprise every time.
Yeah, so like, that's the other thing. Like, obviously, these are lengthy runs, and you can still do the individual episodes, which makes it shorter. Like we said, Captain Spirit shorter. Like, how many times do you run Life is Strange, for example? Like, do you give it every couple of months? Do you come back every couple of weeks? Like, how do you kind of structure it? Because I know that you run a lot of games as well. So, like, how's your structure in place for like Life is Strange, for example?
For Life is Strange, I usually speedrun that. At least once, maybe twice a year. It kind of just depends on how I feel. The one time a year I do speedrun it, conveniently, is this month. It's in June. It's Pride Month. These games are LGBT. It's the perfect time to do it. And even then, this week, every weekend, every Saturday in June, I am speedrunning one of the games. This Saturday happens to be Before the Storm and Captain Spirit. The next weekend's going to be Life is Strange 1, then 2, then True Colors and Wavelengths. And then throughout the week, I'm obviously sprinkling in every other LGBT game I have on Steam, but that's besides the point. But yeah, just this entire month is my month to essentially speedrun every game of Life is Strange.
Yeah, and as you said, it's a perfect time with it being Pride Month. It feels very fitting. And it's like, do you know one of the things I always find fascinating? Because I can, for example, say like I played some games and I played them so much that I know them quite well. But obviously with yourself, it's like you've mentally mapped everything. And I've seen like speedrunners come back to a game and they've like literally just run through it like it's just like it's on the back of their hand. Like, say if we took Life is Strange 1, for example, how long did it take you to perfectly work out the route of that, like as to the optimization that you've done in terms of like you could play through it and then not have to refer back to a guide?
I still refer to a guide.
Oh, did you?
I have not been asked to memorize the conversations, and there are so many of them, I don't care to memorize them. The movement, sure, that's absolutely fine. The movement's the same every time, but the conversations, I'm cracking too many jokes, and I don't want to mess up, so I have all of those written down. Or not written, printed out, but whatever.
So you have like a guide with you at hand, and then you're just like following it whilst you're doing...
Right.
Oh, wow.
It's especially for like 100% having all the photos, just make sure I get all of them. I put a little tick mark next to them just to make sure that I've gotten them. And especially in episode 5, when you're flashing back through the photos and you're like 2 or 3 layers deep and Chloe's not believing a single word you're saying, you mess up once, she's pissed, she's off, she's done. You have to restart that entire thing. So you have to make sure you pick the right thing.
Is that the most difficult moment in the first Life is Strange? Because I was assuming it'd either be that one or in episode 5 where you're sneaking past all the people and they stop you if you see them in the flashlight. It's like a maze section. Which is that the hardest scene though, the Chloe one?
The Chloe one, it's the hardest conversation-wise, because if you mess up, you have to restart the whole thing. You can't fast forward through it because, funnily enough, if you mess up, Max is going to speak a little bit differently because she knows she just messed up.
Yeah.
As for movements, the maze nightmare at the end with everybody with the flashlights, that one, I think we've had the world record holders for episode 5 and 100%, 80%, whatever. They've got it mapped out to like, okay, I've got a mental timer in my head. I know when I can move. I can squeeze past them just here, just there. But I would say that one is probably tied with barn skip when it comes to movement.
Yeah, the barn. I forgot about the barn. See, like, this is my favorite part with speedrunning as well. I always go back and refer to them if I get stuck in a video game, because it's like what they do. I kind of like watch them. It's like, if they can do it, I need to figure out how they're doing it. And they always seem to be so effective at finding those little exploits.
You don't want to go with us with the barn, because we skipped that whole thing entirely.
Do you fall under the map when you're doing it? Yes.
You go outside the map, fall it, and have a seizure coming back in because you're falling so fast.
See, this is what one of the street runs I watched on there, and it was like Max was just running. I was like, what is going on here? I was like, how did you find that?
I have no idea how people found it. I think that was a thing when I started.
Oh wow, that's like, that always blows my mind. One of the things I wanted to get to you is obviously, like, as I said, I found you on speedrun.com, and if anyone's like listening, you can find like your favorite game, go on there and you'll find so many people running it and so many different categories, so many record attempts. But in itself, like, there's a process of verification. How do you go about getting your run on there and the verifying process? Because obviously I can't turn up tomorrow and be like, yeah, I've done the fastest run. Like, no one's ever heard of me. It seems to be like there must be like a strict process in place for getting a run verified on speedrun.com?
It's more of just submit it, and the 1 or 2 mods that we have, me being one of them, will be the one to actually verify it. I kind of don't want to go into the detail of how I verify it, because sitting through 5 hours, personally, I don't sit through those 5 hours in one sitting. And we've actually had cheaters in the past.
Really?
Believe it or not. I mean, I guess you're going to have cheaters everywhere. But the biggest tell for him was that in a scene with absolutely no movement, absolutely no conversations whatsoever, he gained a minute off of what record was at the time. So he had cheat engine running in the background and sped up his game. So we have to take that into account. We usually try to check this, that, and the other. I don't want to go into it because then that'll just kind of defeat the purpose of what we do. But we do have checks, and we do check quite a few things in the run just to make sure that we do have a legitimate run.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I imagine so. Like, as you said, everyone, if there's something exists, someone will try and cheat in it, and that's an example of it. And I imagine that the community must come down pretty hard on anyone trying to attempt, trying to cheat in that. So you can't do that. So, as I said, like, you're a speedrunner. You've done unholy amount of games. Anyone can go and look at your profile. You've done a lot of them. Has your skills ever been like, have you ever found your confidence knocked, or have you ever doubted your skills? Because like, I will say, like, 11 years ago when I was playing Call of Duty, I thought it was like the greatest thing since sliced bread. And then I'd play 5 games and someone would kill me repeatedly. I'm like, I must not be that very good, or something's happening here. Then eventually get my confidence back. Like, has that ever happened whilst you've been speedrunning, where you're like thinking, not, just a bit of doubt creeps into your mind?
I would probably say, like, maybe submitting to something else is just like, oh, I'm not going to get this in or whatever. Then moments up to the run, it's just like, oh, I'm panicking, this, that, and the other nerves are getting to me. Is then usually within 5-10 minutes of the run starting, those kind of just disappear. I'd imagine everybody goes through that. And then the more veteran you are doing that kind of thing, it just doesn't affect you as much. But just in general, I think, like, my main game, Catherine, I think I'm pretty good. I'll pop off every once in a while when I get a good time on the time trial mode. But I think there was this one time where I got like the first sub 2 minute on one of the time trials, and I'm just like, oh yes, I'm great. I've been doing this for like a year and a half, trying to get sub 2 minutes on this. And then 3 hours later, someone comes in and is like, oh, I beat you by 1 second. Come on. Come on.
See, like, that's why, you have to toot your own horn because, like, as you said, like, you can compete as much as you want in all these categories, different games and stuff. And then you hold a world record, but that world record could be there for 3 minutes, 3 days, 3 weeks, like 3 months. You're always defending. It's almost like a sports thing, like a boxing where you're defending a world title, essentially. Like, you have to keep on top of the defense of it. So I completely understand from that perspective. And before we start to kind of come towards the end of it, I kind of wanted to go back onto Life is Strange, like just in general. The series has continued to evolve. Like you said, you've done speedrunning across other ones. Life is Strange 1, 5 hours. Life is Strange 2, 8 hours. Obviously, we had True Colors come out last year, and that was a bit of a different kind of game, quite much more so. Deck 9 coming in as well. Don't Know seems to have split itself away from Square Enix more so. And what did you make of True Colors, and what was it like speedrunning that?
I haven't actually speedrun True Colors yet, so the last Saturday in June is actually going to be my first time doing that. But I don't think it's going to be that big of a problem because we do have other runs of people have already done other runs of it, so I can just go to their run, copy them. As long as I do it slightly faster than what they've done, I'll obviously get the record for that. But to be quite honest, I think it could have been a 3-episode game. Because episodes 2 and 4, those were the absolute shortest things. Those could have been combined at the ends of either episode 1 and 3 or the start of the whatever. Yeah,
see, the argument I always have is that I feel like True Colors is too short. I feel like some of the episodes are just like, some of the chapters just don't feel consistent enough with True Colors. I feel like you could have made it a bit more of a fleshy game, but that's probably in itself a longer conversation that we might go on to. So before I end up with this, I kind of wanted to know, like, you're a speedrunner, you do this, but would you consider yourself a gamer, or would you consider yourself more of a speedrunner? Because I know some speedrunners who just say, I only play this game because, like, I like it for speedrunning, but I'm actually not a gamer. I don't play loads of video games.
I would probably say that I'm more of a gamer. I got 900 games in my Steam library for a reason, and it's not for playing them. It's because they go on sale too often. Yeah. But I play all sorts of kind of things like story games, Life is Strange, puzzle games like Catherine, rhythm games like Unbeatable, and I guess Guitar Hero. Bringing up that old memory. Yeah. I just play all sorts of things, and if I find it interesting enough, I'll speedrun it, and that's kind of what people do. If you find it interesting enough, just take your day, just take your day, try to speedrun it, and then you might not end up that high on the board, but at least you've done it. You've done a game faster than what other people would have ever thought could be fast, or could be completed in.
Yeah, see, like, and it's nice that you mentioned Guitar Hero because I saw it on your speedrun list, and obviously I'm from your era as well. I know Guitar Hero. Those kids will never know that now, how great that game was. How do you speedrun that game? Is it like a progression through career mode or something? Like, that blew my mind a little bit.
For that particular run that I have, yes, it is through career mode. It was on medium. You pick the shortest songs in each tier, because there's obviously one song that's longer than the other. And then I think I was the first person to do this, but every time you started a song, it took a minute to have the camera pan in and have everything pop up and everything. But if you reset and restarted the song, it came up a little bit faster, but doubtful if that was even faster than just waiting for it. But I did it anyway. And it's just, I think they're doing it now. I think I saw World Record do that.
Oh, like, as I said, like, if you're watching this now, and I hope you have, like, enjoy this as well, like, every second in a speedrun you'll squeeze out, because these are the differences where you make a world record attempt or it just falls short of it. And as I said, like, the optimization continues for these kind of games, and it blows my mind the more I kind of keep digging into this. So, like I said, thank you so much for coming on. I kind of want to give you the last part of this before I close out this this like interview, which is where can people find you? Where can they kind of watch these Life is Strange runs? I know you plugged it before, but where can they come and see you more than their Life is Strange fix?
I've got my YouTube channel. It's just Crispy Hanako without a space. I think all my stuff's linked on my Twitter as well. Twitter at Crispy Hanako, no space, whatever. I'm on Twitch, same name. As of right now, if you're wanting more Life is Strange, especially during the month of June, I am doing what I like to call Life is June 2022 edition. We are currently trying to raise money for the Trevor project. Right as of right now, we don't have anything because we've only had one stream, sad. But I do have incentives for that. If we raise $50 total, I'll just start handing out random Steam games that I have unclaimed in Humble Bundle because thanks, everything likes to be the same bundle every once in a while. So I've got a couple copies of everything. Then at $250, I believe I'm doing a cosplay of Rachel Amber. So I'll have to actually nut up and actually have a webcam for once in my life. And then at $500, which is the max one, I'm sure I'll think of something else if we ever surpass that. But at $500, I'm actually going to be dyeing my hair the style of Chloe in Before the Storm with the little streak of blue in the front.
That is very cool. And I will leave the links in the description for anyone who wants to check it out, and you should check it out. Obviously, I think this interview will go out in middle of June-ish, sort of, and obviously Life is June will start it for you. Will these streams be available on VOD on Twitch if they want to catch up on them?
I'll try to make them available, and especially, I guess I'll try to make them available now. A lot of the games I'm playing in Life is June is just, especially throughout the week on Mondays and Wednesdays, those are first playthroughs. I've never played through any of these. It's a kind of a way to get through my backlog of stuff, but I'll most likely be making them available now, so I'll try to make a playlist up on YouTube.
See, that's what most people want to hear, and that'll be great as well because they'll definitely check it out. So thank you so much, and everyone do go and check out Crispy's links as well. Make sure you donate. We need to see Crispy dressed up as Rachel Amber. It's an absolute must, that. But yeah, so thank you so much for coming on, and guys, if you have enjoyed this, please do subscribe, comment, like, share it with your friends as well. Just help the channel. As I said, thank you so much for coming on, and I wish you the best of luck with the rest of Life is June as well. I will try and jump in and see what you're doing as well, keep up on top of it. And yeah, guys, stay tuned as well. There'll be more Life is Strange content coming to this channel. So yeah, guys,